E eccoci qui a un altro episodio di The Stanley Parable. Allora, mio Dio, è già buggato. Iniziamo subito questo video.
He entered the door on his left.
Dai, facciamo quello che dice. È povero, se no questo qua si offende.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Come utilizzare le slide per far sentire gli impiegati per far capire agli impiegati che va tutto bene. Vaffanculo. Sì, belle ste cose. Cazzo c'è qua?
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Come mai?
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
A me piace, Mi piace sto
posto. It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Sì, è bello non fare un cazzo nell'armadio.
Really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
E chiudo anche la porta, guarda.
You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me, because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever.
E perché ne stai parlando?
Maybe to you this is somehow its
own
branching.
Sì, vedi?
Maybe when you go talk about this with your friends, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite."
Fottiti!
And your friends find this concerning.
Tu sei preoccupato.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really stupid. He probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Ma che cattiveria, dai!
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead.
Okay.
You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. He or she has fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place at the computer, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
Mi hanno detto che c'era il PC libero, quindi ne approfitto. Cos'è sto coso?
Ah, second player. It's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before you.
Ok, va bene.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Va bene. Andiamo su per le scale. Ui! Può aprirsi? No, cazzo. E che ufficio sciccoso che ha, bello bello colorato.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845.
Per me è... Aspetta, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cazzo! Quale sarà mai il codice?
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Se lo dici tu... Ah!
Stanley simply began 2845.
Ah! 2... 5... No! Sarò bloccato in questa stanza a vita!
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself.
Okay.
And Stanley got the hell along with the story.
Okay.
Well, whoop-de-doo.
Bottone! Schiacciamo bottone! Che ho fatto? Che cazzo ho fatto? Dove sto andando?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature.
Ma sto seguendo le tue indicazioni, non è che sto scegliendo chissà che cosa, ragazzo.
This question would not go unanswered for long.
Oh, che bello. Allora.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Dai, per questo giro facciamo quello che dice lui,
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
No, io torno a casa. Oh, vabbè, dai. Allora. Un po' tetro sto
their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. Lives of so many individuals reduced to...
Non c'è nessuno però,
And Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe
troppo
Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his
psichedelico.
that his emotions had been
L'ascensore con la luce rossa.
No, he refused to believe
appunto.
it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never.
Mai!
It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Non so.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Ok. Mi sento realizzato. Cazzo. Spegniamo o lo accendiamo? Accendiamo, lo spegniamo. Questo qua è un abominio, deve essere distrutto!
blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense doors opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand.
Dove cazzo sto andando?
No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all that he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Così commovente. Ho finito il gioco. Yeah!
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Piuttosto di salire, scendiamo. Scendiamo a vedere che cosa c'è.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he walked? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange, this can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
È un sogno! Sì.
This is all a dream.
Lo dici tu.
Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Oh mio Dio! No!
Then he
Bello!
imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield. And it was so much fun. And Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Rivelazione!
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a
Per
dream.
forza.
Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just...
Cosa?
He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream.
Ah, bene.
So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Cazzo, sono ancora qui.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please,
No,
can someone tell me I'm real?
sei un gioco, non sei
Can
reale.
anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I?
Sei Stanley?
And everything went black.
Va bene.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
I just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
Dimmi dove sono i miei colleghi!